The first topic of the video is quite a bizarre one, and is actually a rare occurrence when a pilot for a series was aired on TV. But despite its broadcast, the show was never actually picked up to become a full series, leaving this its only missing content over 45 years later. However, content from it has been seen online over the years, and it has unanimously acquired a reputation of being one of the worst concepts for a series of all time. You can be the judge of that for yourself, as we delve into A Dog's Life, a 1979 sitcom pilot pitched to NBC and aired once on June 15, 1979, according to a newspaper article. The show centered around a cast of dog characters who gave commentary on the social matters of humans, but with the twist being that it was from their perspective. Specifically in the pilot episode, the main dog, named McGurk, thinks that he's being put down after his owner says it's curtains for McGurk, when in actuality, he was just getting new curtains for the doghouse. According to the synopsis, there's also a younger pup that McGurk adopts and a love interest he has, along with another female pup. It creates a family dynamic that is commonly seen in sitcoms. But at this point, I'm sure you can't help but notice how exactly the concept was executed. Yes, instead of getting real dogs to act as the characters for the show, or making puppets that could be manipulated, they chose to cast humans in almost comical-looking dog attire. Just from looking at these screenshots, most of their human faces can be seen, so it's not even like they went really makeup heavy and made the outfits look convincing. This was one of the contributing factors that made the show so poorly received, overwhelmingly negative as some sources state, and was rejected from the network, never to be picked up in full. It never aired again after that, or had any following pilots or episodes, this single piece of work remaining completely lost, until 2004, when clips of it were included in an ABC special called The Best TV Shows That Never Were, and it actually got its own full segment. These were the only visuals we had from the show, and still have to this day, giving us a brief look at what it was like. But it wouldn't be the only time the pilot was seen online, and this is where the story gets really intriguing. A comedian named Ken Levine made a blog post back in 2011 that discussed the pilot and included a full upload of it, but unfortunately, the video that was posted is now gone, and I tried contacting Ken a couple years ago to ask if he could re-upload it, but I never heard back. It seems like he doesn't have much of an online presence nowadays, so I'm not sure what he's up to. Curiously, I was also wondering if the copy he uploaded was something like a master file that was only acquired from someone with connections, or if it was just that TV recording from the 70s that he either got himself or had once been uploaded somewhere else online that he simply reposted. I couldn't find any other evidence suggesting other copies made their way online pre-2011, but it is possible that a recording could be unearthed by anyone at this point, as it had a public broadcast, and now with more awareness about it, it could show up. Going back to the show for a second, personally, it is really hard to tell what the entire feel of the show was going to be like from these short clips. But I feel like the concept is interesting, just that the costumes needed to be reworked. Either that or replaced with a different type of actor. The ironic part about this is that in the TV pilot special, there are two other rejected pilots that both use a real dog with dubbed over voicing, and then another one with an actual puppet. If either of those had been used within the plot of this show, I feel like it would have been more liked. The next topic is one that will likely never be found, and could be grouped into the category of lost media that is lost forever. We have a lot of evidence that suggests there are simply no copies of this show that are left, which is hard to believe for a series that had 92 episodes made for it and ran for 2 years, and only as far back as the mid-1960s. This is called Galaxy Boy Troop, a Japanese puppet show that was made by Osamu Tezuka, best known for Astro Boy. Now, right off the bat, I have to say, there is very little information about the show online or being discussed in forums. It's simply that obscure and rare. However, the official Osamu Tezuka website has a really nice section dedicated to its development, and describes the show as well as its air times. Galaxy Boy Troop's story is about a squad named the Galaxy Boys, who were formed to save planet Earth from a climate disaster as the power of the sun begins to weaken. They journey into space to retrieve a substance that can help the sun regain its power, and during this adventure, the group runs into aliens that have landed with their own spacecraft and must do battle against each other. The write-up goes on to describe the show as a hybrid, characters that were brought to life with puppets, while animation was used to depict high-speed spaceship flight. Also on his website, we can see a list of production crew, voice actors, and a list of episode numbers, what day they aired, and even what time they were aired. So if this information about the show is known, and we can even see what it looks like based on some screenshots available, you might be wondering why exactly it's lost. Well, like I said before, there's not a lot of resources online that discuss the show, but there is one forum from tezukainenglish.com that does give us a little more insight about its lost content. Back in 2010, before the Lost Media Wiki even existed, this user found an episode from the series that was uploaded to YouTube and said not a single other clip of it exists, with the exception of a DVD that claims to contain something from the series, along with other puppet shows.
In the reply, the same user updates their previous post, and states
that the episode found on YouTube is indeed the only full episode that has survived, and was the one included on that DVD release mentioned before. It's episode 67, and is referred to as the overseas version by NHK, the ones who found it.
For the fact that it has French subtitles embedded into the video, as well as a French narrator. The clip linked here actually comes from a longer, full upload of the episode from another YouTube channel.
Though these shreds of content has led to some speculation in this thread, it might suggest more recordings are out there somewhere, on top of the fact that an overseas version exists at all. It's heavily speculated that the show did get some kind of French release back then because of that subtitled version's existence. But this is only backed up with that itself as a source, and no other supporting evidence surrounding it. Though other claims do state that all of the episodes were simply destroyed, and a mention from that forum post that says Tezuka was not really happy with the way the series turned out, and could have been a reason for why it wasn't saved. I even read some comments from YouTube re-uploads that said the French dub was actually the pilot episode of a bigger localization attempt, and even for some reason, an entire episode list with names from the Osamu Tezuka fandom page. But at this point in time, we should be a little more cautious with any claims like these, especially ones that are not sourced from something so old. I feel like even if he didn't end up liking the show, poor archival of the episodes would probably be a better reason for why they weren't saved. Just common normal practices of the industry at the time. But like I said before, there's just not a lot of information online to even work with, so a lot of questions about it still remain. Though there is some other media that does exist for the series, like a coloring book and audio CD, and even photo cards from episodes that have resurfaced on Japanese auction sites. This is great supplemental information and material to have, but it remains to be seen if any more full episodes from the show do resurface, beyond unverified stories about its popularity or a French dub. The next topic is one that I'm surprised I haven't covered already, because years ago I was a huge Impractical Jokers fan, but maybe that's because I wasn't familiar with this topic or didn't know about it at all back then. Now that I think about it, there actually is not a whole lot of discussion about it online, as much as I would have expected there to be. So unless you're in the right places, you probably wouldn't have come across it. And that is none other than the pilot to the Impractical Jokers series itself. As you could have guessed by now, basically every TV show starts out as a pilot, to give networks an idea of what the full show will be like. So the Jokers made one themselves, and called it Mission Uncomfortable. Unlike what you might expect for the pilot of a prank show, this did not just contain earlier versions of content seen in the final show, and instead, a different tone entirely to what the final series became. It was sort of a parody on Mission Impossible with the name pun, and went with a spy overlay to its theming. In portions of the pilot's intro that have been posted online, as well as a clip showing one of the challenges, the graphics and theme are much more refined, and give off less of a casual feeling like in the final version. Another huge difference not included in the final show was the usage of a heart monitor that was shown to give viewers an idea of how uncomfortable the Jokers were when completing their missions. Like in one of the challenges seen in one of the only clips online, which has the Jokers in Victoria's Secret performing embarrassing tasks. But currently, this clip and the intro are the only content that's been posted online and are all that's available, so it's nowhere near complete. Actually, there are 2 different versions of the intro that have been posted, with the second one containing even more short clips than that of the first, which is interesting on its own. I wonder if that suggests more of the theming of the pilot was going to be used in the final show before the vibe and name was changed. As for where these uploads originated from, the intros were seen on TV, in official True TV specials that were aired in 2014 and 2016 respectively, and then the Victoria's Secret clip was recorded from a fan at a live event 2 years ago. Despite how short they are, there is definitely enough content in them to notice that a lot of the challenges are similar to ones that made appearances in season 1 of the show, which means these would be like prototype versions of them. But as is a common theme with pilots like this, it was never released in full, and fans believe only the network and the Jokers themselves would have copies. But believe it or not, contact to the Jokers about this topic has actually been made. In a Reddit post from 5 months ago, one user said they DM'd 2 of the Jokers and the series executive producer on Instagram, looking for responses to the possibility of a full release of the pilot. And according to this post, it seems like a good time to do that, since all of the Jokers have begun to pursue other opportunities, and the series feels like it's coming to an end. Perhaps this could be a celebratory finale. And while it seems like they never got a response as of now, at least this post was never updated again, I found that this same user, or who I think is the same user, made a new comment on the Lost Media Wiki article in August of this year, and said they were able to get in contact with Mur on Cameo, and Mur said that releasing the pilot was an interesting idea, and that he had not watched it in years, but that it would be fun to see again. While this is not confirmation at all that it will be released, it does give us a positive sign that it could happen. I'm guessing all 4 Jokers would probably have to agree to it since they're the ones in it, but I feel like unless there's something so embarrassing in there that one of them would not want it to be seen by the public, there really is a good chance that this is a piece of lost media that could show up at the right time if we just give it long enough. The next topic is a really cool one that fuses lost media and speedrunning. While this is not exactly a search for a lost speedrun that is missing from the archives, it is searching for a speedrun that some people online said was their first introduction to the concept in the first place, and it was aired on TV of all places. If you grew up in the 90s or 2000s like I did, then there's a pretty good chance you watched or at least heard about G4. It was always described as that one channel that showed video games, and a lot of their shows were very focused on gaming and technology. But the program that's the focus of this search is one called Cinematech, which is less of an actual show and more of a package program that aired trailers and various gameplay entirely unedited without commentary for a half an hour. This show had a massive run from 2002 to 2007 and is made up of 337 episodes, which I guess makes sense given all the game content they had to work with. However, one episode of the show from back in the day caught the attention of a user in the Lost Media Wiki forums. They made a post discussing this after being unable to find the episode, which, as they recalled, was notable for featuring an entire Super Mario 64 16-star speedrun. They go on to state that this run was broadcast sometime around 2005, and was actually shrunk down and placed in the corner of the screen, so viewers could follow along as the normal trailers and gameplay aired as part of the program. Even though this run was likely from an already existing one that is somewhere online, simply taken for the show, seeing it featured in such a way would be cool to archive, and if you do a little looking around, you can find many other people that remember this particular run of this particular episode. But still, even with these clear memories, it leaves some questions to be answered. Which of the 337 episodes was this included in? And who was the player that performed the run? Well, if we go back to that forum thread, the user looked through an episode list and narrowed it down to episode 64, titled Speeding Along, which specifically mentions it includes Mario 64 as a game, and was aired in July 2005, which lines up with the recollections posted online. The thread had not been updated for a year since the most recent discoveries were made, so I did some looking around myself, believing the episode might have resurfaced by now. Unfortunately, I could not find it exactly, but did come across large portions of G4 that had been uploaded since then, including a news source that was not posted in this thread at all. A Speed Demos archive thread from June 2006, titled Televised Gaming plus Speedruns equals ? It discusses speedruns being shown on TV, which apparently had been happening for a while at that point. There were quite a few different runs from different games that G4 alone had broadcast, apparently without the permission of the runners themselves, which does add some interesting lore to this topic. After their assessment of the situation, listings of the runs that were aired were posted, along with the runners themselves and the time it took them. In this list was a 16-star Mario 64 run by Kirby Carter. However, my research is contrary to the information posted by the user in the Lost Media wiki thread, suggesting it was performed by a different user named Illudude, but I personally found no other names mentioned in relation to a televised run besides Kirby Carter, so I still think it's them. Even with the knowledge of the speedrunner's possible name, I was still unable to find the episode online, but you can find other episodes from Cinematheque that include speedruns in them, to give you an idea of what the Mario 64 one would have been like to watch. The beginning portion even includes a title card and shows a bit of the game close up before it shrinks down. I did notice in that Speed Demos archive thread as well, MatrixTN mentions another user named Radix, who apparently taped some of these episodes along with Matrix themselves, and sent the recordings to other users. It's possible either of these users or someone else from the community might have recorded it, and we do know for sure they were aware it existed. I wouldn't be surprised if a copy of this is sitting in a speedrunner's collection somewhere, without them even knowing it's considered lost media.
For the last topic of the video, let's end it with not just a lost show or pilot, but an entire lost channel. I remember hearing about this topic years ago, but just never got around to talking about it. But now it fits perfectly into lost television. This topic is also probably the most mysterious and unknown of the whole list, and crosses over into the world of TV signal intrusions. I've talked about those a little bit in the past, which is basically when someone interferes with an official video signal and broadcasts their own content in place of what was authorized or supposed to air. Max Headroom is one of the most infamous examples of this, but like I said before, there is an entire lost channel that was broadcast this way, and it was mysteriously known as the Lucky 7. Based on reports from a variety of different newspapers at the time, for 3 consecutive nights in April 1978, individuals took over the unused Channel 7 TV station and created their own short-lived channel. This channel began airing at night on Friday and lasted for 2 nights until Sunday, showing a variety of movies and shows. But what is most distinct and memorable about this pirated channel was the host and branding it featured, allegedly a man in a gas mask that spoke between programming, and even had an animated station ID and jingle. According to those reports from the newspapers, as well as personal recollections that have popped up online over the years, this is believed to be the first pirate station that was attempted, and definitely caught enough local attention to be so well remembered all these years later. Because as you could have expected from the mysterious origin of this channel and the operators behind it, the lost media comes into play, as there is zero content that has been archived from this channel, and to this day, nobody knows exactly who was behind it. Only speculation has been used to figure out the source, with the most common theory being that it was just a group of Syracuse University students who wanted to see if they could pull it off, as the signal was strongest in that area. What I find most interesting about this topic, besides just how lost it actually is, are the strong recollections you can find online from a couple different forums that recall the short event. There's one thread from radiodiscussions.com that gets into a whole lot of detail and speculation, which is just a fun read to look through. One commenter even makes a point of how the FCC only got complaints of the channel after the broadcasts ended, and not while it was actually up. Another user claims to have seen the broadcasts as they were happening, and even remembers what kind of TV they had when it was on. But most interestingly of all, they also mention that real channels in the area actually did reports of the incident at the time, suggesting that those channels would have their own recorded content. While this claim is largely unverified, if those recordings did exist, they haven't shown up at all yet. Though the Lost Media Wiki article does have an image of a gas mask that claims to be from the host, but this has been reposted without verification on other sites, with other mixed visuals, so I don't think it's actually it. This site in particular also backs up the claim that news channels had their own fragments of recordings that were used in reports, but again, none of those have resurfaced online, and there's no source here to prove that they existed. Ways to record television did exist back in the late 70s, so it's not impossible that someone caught this. But the question is then posed, who would have had the incentive to? And with the broadcast being so old and localized, it's unlikely for widespread recordings to have even existed in the first place. While the story about the channel's existence is quite fascinating, the speculation and mystery surrounding it is maybe even more so. I even came across some varied claims that say they knew the people who were behind it, and some others that state anonymous members of the channel had made statements over the years about it. But again, even with these claims, there was just no verified information that I could find that conclusively points towards an answer, and the people behind it were never found. Perhaps that makes the topic even more fascinating. It's a mystery that will remain a mystery as a relic of lost television content.